Hi, this is Jody from Poppywinkle, and I wanted to talk this week about corrugated cardboard and some of the things I like to do with it. And let's get started. A little talk about cutting. If you are going to want to separate your cardboard, like I'm going to show you how, you want to make sure that any crimping is not included. So you would not cut here. You would cut down here if you were going to use this whole piece. Because if you include all this crimping in your piece, then it's not going to separate. So you want to cut past this line. Another thing, if you're dealing with anything over a couple of inches long, you want to use not scissors. You want to use a ruler and some kind of a blade, a craft knife, or a utility knife, anything, but you don't want to use scissors because that's not going to give you a nice cut. So a little talk about corrugated cardboard here. There are so many different kinds. This one is about 1/8 of an inch, kind of like what you'd see in a delivery you get, at your house, an Amazon delivery or something like that. And it looks way bigger than it is because it's just magnified. But that's what it looks like close up. Now this one is about less than a 1/16 of an inch wide, but it is still corrugated. So there is, and who knows how many variations are in between. This is just these are just a couple of things I found sitting around. So there's lots of room for experimentation. One thing I like to do with the thicker kind, the 1/8 inch kind, is to peel it apart. What I do is I hold it under the spigot with hot water running on it and just kind of run it back and forth like this and let the hot water run. And then I try to peel one side away. And it just takes moments. And I get a little bit and then I have to let the water run again, and then I peel it all the way down. And then what I end up with is the corrugated part, and then this part that's like lined paper, which is so fun to use in a journal. And this is also fun, and I'll show you how I use that. Oh, but a note about drying. Make sure that after you have done the water separation, you lay everything flat. Because if you don't, if you just lay it over a pile of stuff to dry like I did, it's going to come out like this. So lay both pieces flat, and then they will come out fine like the ones I showed you. If you do end up with a wrinkly piece, however, of the paper part, all you have to do is use a cool iron and just, iron over it very lightly and it'll flatten right out. This is the wrinkly piece. So I ironed it and now it's perfectly flat. And all I did with it is I took the lined part inside. You might not, I think you can see that. I took the lined part and folded it up and down to make just a little tucky thing, journaling spot. And I put a pretty paper clip on it, and then that can go into a pocket or anywhere. And that is just the side of a box, like it was a box of cans of soup. And so there was a little side piece. So I'm using, that's why it's so thin. And then another thing I did with the paper, this was that paper, which paper? This part. That was the paper that I pulled off that I showed you. I cut it into 4 pieces, and it was pretty on one side with the lines, but it was unpretty on the other side. And so I took it, this is the line side, so I journaled on that. And then on the other side, I just pasted a photograph of the nest I'm talking about. So this is the photograph of a nest, and then I talk about it on this side. So what I did was I covered up the ugly with a photograph. And this stuff, oh my goodness, the texture, oh, it's just absolutely delicious. If you had a big enough piece, actually I did have a big enough piece, but I cut it up. If you have a big enough piece, you could use it as a whole journal page. It's just fabulous stuff. Really good. One of the things I like to do with the corrugated part is use it like a stamp to make lines for writing. And how I did that was I took a piece of paper that it's going to be a journal page, and I just fold it so it's ready to be that journal page. And then I took that corrugated cardboard and inked it up. And then I pressed it down. I kind of lined it up so I don't get my lines all crooked. Pressed it down and just use a brayer to push it. And those corrugations are much sturdier than I thought they were going to be. Like I thought if I got this brayer on it, I was going to squish them and make them flat and then they wouldn't work. But that is not the case at all. I've used this a bunch of times and it's not going anywhere. Isn't that great? So you have writing lines, and I used brown because I like the muted. I used brown ink on brown paper because I really like that muted look. You know, you'd get a whole other look if you were using, say, white paper with black ink or something like that. And you wouldn't have to do all of them, but you could. You could do all the sides because, you know, they're going to present as one page when it's in a journal. So you could do it like this, and so you have 2 lined pages, or you could do all of them and then you'd have 4 lined pages. This kind of box is where I got that less than 1/16 inch of corrugated cardboard that I showed you. It is super sturdy. I don't know if you can tell, but it is super strong, super sturdy, and that's what I used to make my ephemera storage journals, because I wanted them to be super sturdy, super strong, because they had to hold all this stuff. And so I used that for the front, the back, and the spine, and just attached it with craft paper. I have a video of how I did it. I'll link that. But if you want something super sturdy, this kind is the great kind to use. The thicker kind is not as sturdy. And this is also interesting. I did take one of these pieces apart with the water, and it was an interesting deal. It did not work as well, which I know how to fix this. It did not work as well because this piece, this outside paper piece, made everything want to curl. So if I ever do it again, I'm going to take this piece off first, because then it won't curl. And when it curled, then it was harder to pull apart. Now, of course, I'm still going to save these yummy pieces and use them. I already did use some, a little piece, on this journaling card. This definition here has a backing, and that's from that other piece that's all ripped up down here. So anyway, this stuff is it's all gold. But I think if I take this curly part off first, then I can get it. There were 3, I think there were 4, yeah, including the curly, there were 4 different pieces to this. And so I took it off both sides. I took the paper off both sides, and then I kind of stretched this out which made a nice a nice thing. They're so good for like clusters or any kind of little decorations, pockets. If you want to make a little booklet, it could be a cover of a booklet. It's very, very good texture. I love it. So those are some of my ideas for using corrugated cardboard in my junk journals, and I'd love to hear what you've come up with. If you want to leave me a comment and tell me how you use it, I would love to hear. Thanks for watching. Bye.